All right, I'm not coming back from the Shadow Realm, but let's have a little bit of a conversation because in 2 nights we are going to celebrate, I think it's the 8th annual NFL Honors. Now, granted, there's a ton of awards they end up giving out, like the best player of the year, all that other stuff, but there's really only about 6 awards that really matter. So you have the NFL MVP, Comeback Player of the Year, Offensive and Defensive Rookie of the Year, Offensive and Defensive Player of the Year, that's 6, and I guess the 7th being Coach of the Year. Those are really the 7 most important awards that are given out. Really the 7 most important awards that people actually care about. Granted, there's fantasy, other people who had, they put money down on fantasy. They care about who wins Fantasy Player of the Year. Well, not really, because the fantasy season's over. I mean, if your guy who you drafted won the award, is there people who actually bet on that? Let me know in the comment section. But of these 7 awards, I want to break down who I believe should win. Given the number of applicants, or not necessarily applicants, but the individuals who are possibly in the contention to win it's a very small pool. A lot of people have like 10 people up for nomination. I don't think that's the case. I think in every single one outside of a Coach of the Year and maybe offensive player of the year or comeback player of the year, there's really every other one is pretty much decided in my opinion. But let's break down who I believe should win. Number 1, Coach of the Year. In my opinion, there's only 4 names that actually matter on this list. Coach Nagy, Matt Nagy for the Chicago Bears, Anthony Lynn, the Los Angeles Chargers, Frank Reich, the Indianapolis Colts, and Pete Carroll for the Seattle Seahawks. Why? Let's break it down. First, Pete Carroll. Coming into the season, everybody projected, or I shouldn't say everybody, because people in Seattle are like, we're going to the Super Bowl. They weren't like Dallas, going back and forth. But in Seattle, basically the people believed that the Seahawks were going to be at the bottom of the NFC. Not only were they not at the bottom, they went into the postseason and made a very good attempt of possibly going to the divisional round. Ultimately, them boys took care of them and they're no longer in the postseason picture. Neither are them boys, but we ain't talking about that right now. But Pete Carroll galvanized this team and got them to go, a run game out of nowhere because they had a bunch of people that nobody thought was going to do anything. All right, Mike Davis, nobody saw that coming. All right, who else was on the ground for them? I'm forgetting the name, but he went over 1,000 yards. I'm forgetting. It's going to come back to me a little bit later. But these guys came out and they played phenomenal football. Rashad Penny as well. He wasn't the one who went over, but I believe he was the rookie who came in from was it in the same school that Marshall Faulk went to. But yeah, they took care of business, man. They took care of business. I'm still forgetting the running back. It's gonna come to me. Somebody's gonna let me know in the comment section. I'm forgetting. He went over 1,000 yards. He had a phenomenal season. I'm gonna remember. Oh, there it is. Chris Carson. There it is. Came to me. Told you it was gonna come to me. But great year for the Seattle Seahawks. He turned that franchise around, or I should say this particular season around. And yet again, he's yet to have a losing season since drafting Russell Wilson. We're not going to talk about that 7-9 season, but of course, Marshawn Lynch, get your bitch ass off me, as he told Tracy Porter as he threw him to the floor. The year that they defeated the New Orleans Saints. Next team, Chicago Bears. You had Matt Nagy coming in, very first year, taking over for John Fox. And what did we see happen? We saw the Chicago Bears go from a 5-11 team, pick up a Khalil Mack, draft a Raquan Smith. Now they came in hot at the end of this year, 12-4. Arguably the best defense in football. In my opinion, they were the best defense in football this year. Unfortunately, Cody Parkey messed that up, but to see how they shifted, also offensively, they were known as a very dangerous running football team. They weren't crazy with the pass, but they made it dynamic, and I love the play calling from Matt Nagy as well. Really reminded me of what we saw last year with Doug Peterson, where we got these coaches coming in, these offensive-minded coaches calling their own plays and really lighting up the scoreboard. We saw that also last year with Sean McVay as well. I'm not going to include Sean McVay in this list because we've seen him win it last year. More importantly, it wasn't as if he changed the Rams offense around. It was the exact same thing. A lot of people expect, well, coaches that are already successful, we should give them an award. That's not really what the award is about, because if that was the case, we're giving the award to Bill Belichick every single year. But Matt Nagy came in, got his team into the playoffs, won the NFC North for the first time since Jay Cutler and the boys in 2010. So great year for him. I'm rooting for him as well. Then we have Anthony Lynn. I don't think it's going to be a situation in which he wins, because we saw how rough the Chargers started last year. They got on a streak. They closed out their season as one of the hottest teams in the NFL, but they fell short of the playoffs. This year, they righted their wrongs from all of the years past, got themselves into the postseason, won a playoff game, ultimately fell short to the Patriots. And because of the way that they lost, I think that's what's going to cost him his opportunity to possibly win this particular award. And finally, Frank Reich in Indianapolis, and he is my pick to win. Originally, I wanted to go with Matt Nagy, but really thinking about it, of how the Indianapolis Colts changed from a 1-5 team early in the year to find themselves 10-6 and in the postseason, winning a postseason game on the road, ultimately losing, in Kansas City. But phenomenal season for those guys. One of the reasons why later on I'm going to talk about their quarterback when we talk about comeback player of the year. But my pick for the NFL coach of the year for this particular year, it's going to be Coach Frank Reich. I'd give it to him. This man, the way that he turned around, Indianapolis, now making it seem as if they can become a very consistent football team, not only through for seasons to come, because they've got young talent on both sides of the ball. They still got the legendary kicker in Adam Vinatieri, not really a great performance in the postseason, but he's got himself a team here that can contend moving forward. I think they can really fight to win the AFC South next year. We'll talk about Houston, later videos down the line to predict where I see teams going during next year. But this Colts team, the unit that they have everybody intact. I don't think they're going to lose anybody, so they're going to be a force to be reckoned with moving forward. Frank Reich, he's getting my coach of the year. Next, we have offensive rookie of the year. There's only about 2 people who actually matter in this particular, frame for this award. Saquon Barkley, Baker Mayfield. My opinion, there's nobody else. All right, now, Saquon, 2,000 scrimmage yards. Saquon Barkley sets the record for the most touchdowns passed for as a rookie. I believe it was 27, passing Peyton Manning. Hellacious season for the both. The Giants, 5-11. The Browns, 7-9. This is interesting. However, I would give the nod. Originally, I was going to go Saquon Barkley. I'm giving it to Baker Mayfield. And I'll tell you why I'm giving it to the Cleveland Pastry Chef. Because if you look at the 7 wins that they got, he got 6 as a starter. The last one relieving for Tyrod Taylor, Thursday Night Football. I believe it was week 3. They were playing against the Jets. Baker Mayfield is the reason why the Browns have won their games. The defenses play their role. Nick Chubb played his role on the ground, or running the ball on the ground. But really, Baker Mayfield was putting the ball in places where you don't really see rookie quarterbacks make those types of throws. His impact on the field, because remember, they're coming from an 0-16 team, now winning 7 games just below 500. Saquon Barkley lit up the stat sheet. Hell, he was breaking defenders' ankles left and right. However, did it translate into wins for the Giants? Granted, the running back can't go out there and, pile up wins for their teams. But you can say the same thing for the quarterback. Baker Mayfield was winning games, getting things done on his case in order to win for the Cleveland Browns. Saquon Barkley did everything that he could, but they continued to fall short. You're going to look at impact from each player and what translated into victories for their teams. They're going to probably lean more towards Baker Mayfield. At least I would. Ultimately, I feel as if Saquon Barkley is going to win, but if I had a vote that actually mattered in this case, I'm giving the nod to Baker Mayfield. Next, defensive player of the year. Regarding the rookies, that is. There's only 2 names, in my opinion, that actually should be there. Derwin James, Los Angeles Chargers. Darius Leonard, Indianapolis Colts. First and foremost, it's a shame that Darius Leonard is not in the Pro Bowl, or I should say, gotten voted. However, first team All-Pro for both of these guys. Well deserved. And in Derwin James' case, I believe he had, let me see if I have some stats written down over here below. I got 40, what are we looking at? 3 interceptions, 3.5 sacks that he had as well. Also, he had, 2 forced fumbles? No, not 2 forced fumbles, but he was doing his thing. All right. Oh, and we had some tackles for loss that we had over here. I think, 105 tackles that he had total. But you look at Darius Leonard. This guy came in, led the league in tackles. I think it was 169 or something, or 159, whatever it was. He did it in 15 games. He only played 15 games. He missed one. All right. But you look at the interceptions. He had 2 picks, 4 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, and 7 sacks. The man was all over the field. More importantly, he was the best defender on the Indianapolis Colts, and he was pretty much the heart of that defense when they turned it around and started winning games. I would lean more towards him because of his impact on the field, and if you look at his statistics versus Derwin James' statistics, he's right there regarding the interceptions, and everywhere else, he's blown him out of the water. So I'm giving the nod to Darius Leonard walking home with the defensive rookie of the year. Next, we got offensive player of the year. There's only 2 names, in my opinion, that are there. Obviously, a lot of people want to throw Todd Gurley in there, but he didn't play the last month. So I can't give him that. Now, we got Drew Brees, Patrick Mahomes. My opinion, or I should just say for the MVP award, Patrick Mahomes is my pick. So because that's the case, I don't really like to see people walk away with 2 awards at that. But I can make the case for Drew Brees throwing just under 4,000 yards. That's snapping his consecutive streak of throwing for 4,000 yards. I believe it was 12 years in a row, which is insane. But he only played 15 games. Had he played the last game, no question about it. You only need 8 yards to get to 4,000. He would have already gotten there. I believe he ended the season with 3,992 yards. Now we talk about touchdowns. He had some, how many passes did he have for a touchdown this particular year? He had, well, I don't have it written down over here, but the last 6 games, that's where the issue starts for him, at least trying to make the case, because he had 7 touchdowns versus 5 interceptions. After the Dallas game, he didn't play his best football. A lot of people say he fell off a cliff and all that other stuff. I don't believe that was indeed the case, but the Saints as a whole did not play their best football after that Dallas game. I don't know what the deal was. Maybe them boys got to them. I don't know what the deal was, but they kind of took a downturn. Now, if we talk about Patrick Mahomes, you're talking about 5,000 yards passing, 50 touchdowns, and the reason why the Kansas City Chiefs were able to find themselves in the AFC Championship outside of losing Kareem Hunt. Because originally, I thought they were going to fall off the cliff after losing Kareem Hunt. Granted, Damian Williams came in and he did his job, but Patrick Mahomes is ultimately the reason why you saw that team in the AFC Championship, and seeing how they contended down the line, where Patrick Mahomes went down the field and scored on 4 consecutive possessions or 3 consecutive possessions, whatever it was in the fourth quarter. He put on a hellacious performance. Because of that, I believe he'll mess around and win that award, but I would, you know what? I'm not even going to do that. I'm going to give the nod to Patrick Mahomes, because I want to say I'll give it to Drew Brees because Patrick Mahomes is going to be the MVP. No, screw that. All right, this ain't no participation award. Screw you, Drew Brees. You screwed yourself down. All right, you screwed yourself over. The ref screwed you in the playoffs, but we ain't talking about that right now. Patrick Mahomes, offensive player of the year as well. Defensive player of the year. It's a unanimous decision. It's going to be Aaron Donald. There's no question. There's absolutely no question. The man had 20 and a half sacks, 41 quarterback hits. That's ridiculous. 4 forced fumbles or 7 forced fumbles, whatever it was. This man, no, 4 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries. Ridiculous. All right, this man was all over the field. I think he had 25 tackles for loss. It doesn't make any sense. He was a terror the entire season. There's nobody who came close to this man when we talk about defensive player of the year. All right, it's just him. At one point going into December, it was J.J. Watt, Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald obviously had a little bit of an edge, but J.J. Watt kind of fell off. Aaron Donald, he still did what he did. So I'm giving the nod, Aaron Donald, unanimous decision, defensive player of the year for the 2nd consecutive year. Then we have comeback player of the year. There's 3 names on this list. You got Andrew Luck, you have J.J. Watt, and you have Adrian Peterson. Now, I don't see Adrian Peterson winning, because let's just be honest, although he did have a 1,000-yard season at age 33, he is, I believe, there was only 300-yard games that he had, 4 games where he was over 90 yards, but of those 4, one happened to be when he played against, it was a Monday night game, was it the Eagles? It was a divisional opponent where he had that 90-yard touchdown, but outside of that, he didn't really do anything. So I can't give the nod to Adrian Peterson, although it does look good on paper, but if you analyze all of the games, he didn't have that huge, remarkable season. It was only about a little bit over a quarter of the season where his presence was really felt, about maybe 6 games, and the remainder, or I should say the remaining 10, he didn't really have a huge of an impact. Now, we're talking about J.J. Watt over here. Remember, the past 2 consecutive seasons, my leg, my back, and he came back after both of those injuries and showed why he's the best defensive end in football. I don't care what nobody says. You could have one, great season. You can have two great seasons. J.J. Watt has done it every single year when he's healthy. And when this man is healthy, he is one of the greatest defensive linemen of all time. Hell, scratch that. One of the greatest defensive players of all time. And he showed you why this particular year. 16 sacks. All right. 7 forced fumbles that this man had on the particular year. All right. It's ridiculous. All right. And he also had 25 QB hits. He was out there all over the field being a terror every single game. I would have gave him the comeback player of the year, but there's somebody in the same division that just did a little bit more. That being Andrew Luck. Starting 1-5. Missing the entirety of last year. People who have short-term memory forget Andrew Luck was not the quarterback last year. It was Jacoby Brissett. A lot of people were talking about, oh, but where were they at last year? We didn't see the Colts in the play. He wasn't playing. They were unsure if he's going to be able to play football again. They felt the same way about J.J. Watt as well. But after that 1-5 start, you saw Andrew Luck being throwing the second most touchdowns in the league, 4,593 yards. This man turned the team from 1-5 to 10-6. It wasn't all on his shoulders because you had return of the Marlon Mack in the backfield running over people. But Andrew Luck had his presence felt every single game in which I believe they won. It was 8 consecutive games or 7 consecutive games. That was Andrew Luck as the nucleus to that particular winning streak. And I accredit him for the reason why we saw the Colts in the postseason. I'm giving the comeback player of the year to Andrew Luck. And finally, we have the NFL MVP. That being Patrick Mahomes. I don't think it's going to be unanimous. I think Drew Brees might get a couple of votes. I think Todd Gurley will probably get 1 vote from somebody who doesn't really know what's going on. But Patrick Mahomes is the NFL MVP. 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns. The reason why we saw the Kansas City Chiefs get as far as they did. There's nothing else that I could say because you already know the Kansas City defense is non-existent. You know they're playing with a team that has no defense. So offensively, what makes them go? Well, Tyreek Hill, did they run any of these dynamic plays where it was the same thing as 2 years ago? Tyreek Hill coming out of the backfield, Tyreek Hill on a screen. Nah, Patrick Mahomes was slinging it all over the field. You saw a resurgence in Sammy Watkins. Tyreek Hill did what he did. Travis Kelce did what he did. You had a Chris Conley out here killing defenses from time to time. When he got the ball in his hand, he wasn't giving 100 yards and stuff like that, but when he was moving the chains for him. Demarcus Robinson. He had all these different guys. And then out of the backfield, dumping the ball off. Ridiculous. The dump off game was looking like Alex Smith out there. He was a dink and dunk poppy this year. Patrick Mahomes did his thing. He is the NFL MVP in my opinion. So I'll tell you who I believe is winning every single one of these awards. NFL MVP. We're going in reverse. NFL MVP. Patrick Mahomes. Comeback player of the year. Andrew Luck. Defensive player of the year. Aaron Donald. Offensive player of the year, Patrick Mahomes. Defensive rookie of the year, Darius Leonard. Offensive rookie of the year, Baker Mayfield. And finally, coach of the year, Frank Reich. Those are my picks of who I believe are going to win those particular awards. The other awards I don't really care for. You guys can discuss in the comment section. I tried to go find what those other awards were, but then there wasn't a huge ballot as to who might possibly win them, so I didn't really care too much about them. But these particular awards, these 7, those are who I believe will win, and they had phenomenal seasons, each individually and also as a team, at least for some. But that's my picks. You let me know what your picks are in the comment section. I'm going to enjoy the NFL Honors. Also, it's hosted by Steve Harvey. I haven't really been a huge Steve Harvey fan. I prefer Bernie Mac, but of course, he can't host it. He's in the upper room, as he would once say. Or I shouldn't really say it's him who said it. It was Eddie Murphy and, Marcus Lawrence. And we ain't talking about that right now. But, Steve Harvey, I hope you do a good job. But yeah, I'm getting up out of here. Let me know who you believe should have won these awards. Let's discuss.